Greetings all. Hope you enjoy your day today. Yesterday I started jotting down some notes with the intention of making a specific video. It was supposed to deal with the leadership of Africa. And when we are returning to, when we the diasporans are returning to Africa, we do this for one of a few things. At the top of these things are the list of preferences, let's say, is what our families are from that state or area. Most people, if they're from Nigeria, go back to Nigeria. Ghana, they go back to Ghana. Liberia, go back to Liberia. Sierra Leone, South Africa, same, because they have established roots there. But some people, including those who don't have established roots, our roots are cut. We look at Africa through the eyes of the diasporans who are there with cameras on the ground. Or we go to government sites and get some information on GDP and so forth. But we don't look at this thing in a more critical aspect. And that's what I was going to deal with. The people who you hear talking about in Ghana, Ado will come out and says, we need Europeans to come and invest. What he means by invest is not that they're gonna come and bring their money and build important structures in Ghana. They are going to come just like the Chinese do. They've been coming before the Chinese. The Chinese don't come and buy the cocoa plantation, but the European will, and he does it for a purpose. He's gonna buy it, kick all the families off, bring in his own management, and go on from there. But you got people like Ado, and people like the president of Kenya, Ado from Ghana, the president, all of them from Nigeria, from Guinea and Congo, Zambia, Tanzania. They all work on behalf of the European masters. And they're been sent back with the agenda to bring back foreign investment. Foreign, meaning European, Japanese, Australian. And his talking points are, their talking points, if you listen to them carefully, is always foreign investment capital, democracy, rights for women and girls, and the LGBT agenda. Now the African leaders that want to do something to benefit their own people, listen to their conversation and you hear them talking about food security, housing, roads, good reliable power, health care, and keeping their young men in the country and employed. Listen to me now. I listen to these people. That was the subject I wanted to talk about. The leadership and what it's doing. Then this morning I got up and here in the, like this mountain I'm looking at before me. The subject of resources, and one in particular. People talk about Africa resources and how wealthy Africa is. And when they talk about those resources, I never hear them included the human resources. And when you hear the European talk about resources, you don't hear him talk about the human resources in Africa. One of the things that you are seeing now is this huge migration through South America, Panama, into the United States. And if you look at it, you will see all young people, the majority of which are light complexion. They're all moving out of South America into America, into North America. Canada used to be importing a lot of Chinese and Indians. And now that's slowing. And they're going the same route. Ukrainians, other Europeans going to Canada. I think a few Indians do, but they're choosing the educated ones in certain fields. Same thing with Africa. They're taking doctors and nurses, people in a category that is important to Africa and the Caribbean, but they don't see them as a resource in Africa and the Caribbean. Anytime you hear Americans talking about resources, they include human resources. There's special departments in corporations called HR, and it's dedicated to managing the human resources of the company. Every month, the government of the United States, all the European governments, have reports that coalesce their human resources throughout the country, and they make that report to Wall Street or Fleet Street, the Paris half mile, the EU mile. What I'm talking about when I say half mile and mile, these are cities within cities that are separated from whatever country and city and said country or state they're in. Like Washington, D.C. Anyway, human resources. However, what you're seeing in Africa is that back in the 70s, the English used to take certain Africans out, train them at the best schools. The French did the same thing. And the best example of this is a man called Dubai in Guinea. Trained in the French Foreign Legion and now governing Guinea. The French had a little coup in Guinea, and he's really on their behalf. You got people like the one in Kenya, the one who was in charge of Sierra Leone the other day, the woman who was in charge of Tanzania now. They're all trained economists or managers or whatever you want to call it, somewhere in the West. They were given tenure and teachers in school, just waiting for the opportune moment to bring them out. Meanwhile, the opportunity moment was being created in their country. Destabilize the country, bring them back as saviors to run the country. And then they run it on behalf of somebody else. One of the programs that they institute is pushing younger people, just like you see the immigration, like I said, across South America into North America. Children and adults up to the age of about 40. They are replacing the old Americans that died during COVID and the ones that are going to die now from the, how do they call it, side effects of the medication given to them. They're the ones, if you read the reports, economic reports, some estimate they're 50% of the growth of the economy in America. Europe, they are the reason for the growth of the economies across Europe. They keep money in the country moving. They're the ones that even in internment camps, which is supported by the UN, with millions of dollars coming into Spain and Italy or wherever they are, through the UN agencies. or they're working on farms. They're in internment camps. Those who can't go out to work on farms or be street walkers, and the prostitution that's going on. Are in internment camps. But the ones working on the farms now, yes, they're sending a little bit of money back home. But the produce that, what they're producing is ended up in Africa. And it's keeping Africa from growing what it needs to live. Let's keep in mind now that these same people move from Africa for better pastures in Europe or wherever they end up. And now what they produce is ending up in Africa, taking resources out of Africa on one end, human resources, and then money going out of Africa to pay for the products that are being imported that are not grown in Africa. But the other thing that this thing is happening is you'll see two candidates before you have many people running for, say, president in Africa. But now you hear them talk about democracy, and they put these people that the U.S. groomed, the British and French groomed, putting the opposition in prison, and leaving the weakest ones to run against them. That's what democracy is. People don't understand it. This is nothing about equality and democracy. It's just nothing about equality and capitalism. And you people refuse to learn these things because you focus so much on entertainment. But the human resources are very important. You look at a place like Singapore. What underground resources do they have? Yet Singapore is primarily what we would call middle class. And wherever they can find issues like in housing, education, healthcare, they focus in on it, laser focus to fix it. Here African leaders talking about Singapore. We want Singapore is a good model for talk, making grand speeches, and they followers clapping, and then they go home. I've seen people celebrating their candidate, blocking roads, long caravans of people celebrating after election win. And then the next 5 years or so, they live in the same conditions that they were before this man came from America. He became leadership. I would encourage you all to look at what happened to Magufuli. From he came into office, he was trained in the West. But when he came into office, he didn't completely follow the agenda. Ended up dead. Contrast that to Ado in Ghana, who come on public broadcast says the agenda will not, we will not stray from the agenda in Ghana as long as I'm the president. Now they're threatening to impeach. Those human resources, very important. And we don't pay attention to it. I hope you start paying attention to that when you decide to make your plans to Africa, because you might come to Africa with lots of money and get an apartment and sit back and relax, but eventually these things are going to catch up, and you see what happens when they catch up. Look at Sudan, look at Cameroon, look at the Congo. And when you get caught in the middle of this, what are you going to do? Your money is gone. You have to live. Did you bring with you some kind of skill that you can transfer from yourself to Africa? I mean, you may not want to go out there and be a plumber, but can you teach how to do how plumbing should be done correctly? If you listen to people called Bags family, B-A-G-S family in Gambia, look at the problems that they face with employing people who come and say, I know how to do it. I want you to go look at their video. Seriously. So bring the skills, not just your money, the skills, and teach them, because Africa needs it. The young men are leaving. You gotta help keep those young men in the country. That resources got to be kept, supported, encouraged, all the way. Africa 20, well, for the rest of the world, they're coming to Africa in 2034. Hey, no date. But Africa got a plan for 2063. You see what the big issue is here? The rest of the world is planning for something. They gave Africa a plan of 2063, but their plan is 2034. Not for Africa only, the rest of the world too. Anyway, let me stop here. Hope you enjoy your day wherever you are. Peace.